You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast. This is a podcast on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. We are recording this episode on the 19th of February. Thank you for all your support. Do keep listening to our podcast and do not forget to introduce this to your cricket-loving friends. We really appreciate that. You can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and any other podcasting platform that you may use. Just look for Armchair Cricket Podcast and you should find us there quite easily. Please leave us a 5-star rating and share your thoughts and feedback in the comment section on whichever platform you use. You can reach out to us by email on armchair.cricket@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @ArmchairCrickPod. You can find us active during an ongoing match there on Twitter. You can join us for a banter. By the way, we also have a Facebook page now. Just look for Armchair Cricket Podcast and you should be able to find us there. Do not forget to like our page. If you have difficulty in finding our Facebook page, you can find a link to that in the description below. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who were affected by the tragic event at Pulwama. Our condolences to all the bereaved. Having said that, I have with me today Ajit. Hello, Ajit. How are you doing?
Hello, Giri. Good evening. I'm doing good. How have you been?
Not bad. Not a lot of Test cricket between this episode and the previous one. We just finished the one with between South Africa and Sri Lanka, the epic one. I'm looking forward to this week because there is more coming up.
I would say it's a good thing, right? I think we got a bit of a chance to reflect on how good the victory was for Sri Lanka and also catch our breath, so to say.
Yeah.
It was such a exhilarating victory, exhilarating Test cricket overall, right? So that's a good thing. Now, before we go into some of the events that we can look at this week, shall we quickly visit the trivia question from last week? Yeah. So the trivia question last week or the last episode was, who are the only two players to have achieved a victory by 1 wicket in tests twice? So at this week, we have two people who had an attempt at the answer and they got an answer right. So an anonymous user who would not leave a name got the first part of the answer right, one player right. And a friend of ours, Yashwant, I understand, got the second player right. So the answers are Inzamam ul Haq from Pakistan and Courtney Walsh from West Indies. So if you were to quickly look at the matches that they were involved in. So first I'll take a look at Walsh because I think he deserves a special mention. We all know how good he is or he was with the bat. Yeah. So he deserves a special mention here because the first time he kept company to win the match was he kept Brian Lara's company. So this was a test against Australia in Bridgetown in 1999, where Walsh kept Brian Lara company, where Brian Lara scored an identical 153. I think you mentioned this match in the previous episode as well, right? So in this match, Walsh took 7 wickets and also was able to hang around for 5 balls, which is always required, and Lara completed the task, right? So in the second such event where Walsh was involved, he was this time supporting his captain, Jimmy Adams. And again in this match, Walsh took 6 wickets, and in both these matches, he had a 5 for each, right? And he, in this case, was able to keep out 24 balls. So by Walsh's batting prowess, I think that's a very good effort. He was able to hang around for more than an hour and a quarter almost in order to keep Jimmy Adams company and win this match for West Indies. So it was again a nail biter. So this was the contribution from Walsh, the tail ender, who supported another main batsman. But the second player who was able to achieve it was Inzamam, who was the main batsman in both those tests that he won. So in the first of those tests, that was in Karachi in 1994, where Shane Warne took a lot of wickets in the match, but could not win the match for Australia. And I think we mentioned this in the last episode, where the Vice 4 runs that won the match for uh, Pakistan. And Inzamam was batting very low. He was batting at number 8, and he scored a 58 not out. And in this last wicket partnership with Mushtaq Ahmed contributed as many runs as well. He scored at 20 out of 30 balls. So it was a very energetic partnership, very much like what we saw last match. But at least the last number 11 was contributing. In the next such instance where Inzamam was able to win a match with Pakistan, we already discussed in the previous episode. It was against Bangladesh. So this was in 2003 in Multan, where, as we discussed, so a few Bangladesh players were left in tears when they couldn't clinch the match. And this was a really special innings from Inzamam, where he scored 138 not out, chasing 262 to win. The second highest score in that innings was 37. So it was a really special innings that he made more than 100 runs more than the next highest player. And then, just to round up this discussion, I'm very curious where Kusal Perera's innings would end up in the list of, batting rankings in tests. I think it's going to be in the top 5 probably, or in the top 10 for sure. So I'm very curious to look out at some statisticians who may already be researching into this. And we may get to see some articles about this in the coming months. So I'm very curious about this. So that was that special innings, right? So now, moving onwards, I think let's quickly do a preview of the South Africa versus Sri Lanka second test coming up, Giri. What are your thoughts on this?
We're just recovering from that nail biter, like you said, which happened in Durban last week. And we have another one coming up. So the main question is, will Sri Lanka be able to pull off a series victory against South Africa and become the first South Asian team to win in South Africa, South African conditions? This is let's not forget that this is a 2 test match series. Sri Lanka has already won the first match, so all they need is just a draw, and they will be able to clinch the series. It will be an interesting match. Look forward to that. So it's being played at Port Elizabeth. It's on the Eastern Cape, so at the coast, basically. Port Elizabeth happens to be the home ground of one Mr. Sean Pollock, the great all-rounder.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's traditionally, I think this pitch has been quite slow compared to pitches in the Highveld, as they're called, for example, in Centurion or at Boring, Johannesburg. So this is expected to be slow, and the kind of traditional and the kind of cricket that you expect to see here is more attritional, so occupation at the crease, playing a long innings, not scoring at a very high pace. That's the expectation here. So spin is also expected to come into the picture at some point of time. So the question here is, what will the team balance look like? Who are South Africa going to play, and who are Sri Lanka going to play? First things first, South Africa will not be able to play Vernon Philander because he had an hamstring strain during the last match. So he's expected to sit out, or he will sit out for sure. And that's basically the end of summer for him, test summer season for him. So he will not be able to play another test match because there is World Cup coming up, and there is South African domestic ODI season, and he may get a chance to prove himself there and even claim a spot in the World Cup squad. You never know, because the World Cup is in England, so it might be a good option to play Vernon Philander. Whether he's up to it, that's another story. So the replacement coming in for Vernon Philander is Wiaan Mulder. He is an all-rounder. You can say he's a like-for-like replacement. So he's also a swing bowler, and he's a good batsman, lower down the order. He's an all-rounder. So will South Africa play him? Probably. I don't know what other changes they will have to make in the squad. There is also a talk about bringing in an extra batsman like Teonis de Bruin. So I'm curious. I'm going to keep an eye on this because we need to see what other team news will be there before the test match because it's still 2 days away.
You're
There's still a lot
right.
of time. Yeah.
You're right. So one of those changes might be enforced. Vian Mulder might take the place of Vernon Philander. I think he's very young, and he started his career as a promising batsman who could bowl fast. So he's also known very well for his batting in the South African domestic circuit. And as you correctly mentioned, the other change that we could probably look forward to is probably somebody like Duane Olivier, who might not be required on this slightly slower and a more attritional sort of a pitch. And either South Africa could include somebody like Zubair Hamza, or as you said, Theunis de Bruin. We'll have to see which one of those might make it to the team. I have a feeling Duane Olivier might not be required on this pitch. So we'll have to see, because after all, Mulder can also bowl. So you would still go in with two fast bowlers and one medium pacer, let me put it like that, and a spinner. So, and I think Zubair Hamza can bowl a bit. So that might be something, if I'm not wrong, he also can roll his arm over,
Okay.
So might work in his favor, if I'm not wrong. Right.
So Keshav Maharaj would still be in play, I think, because it's a slow pitch. So he
Exactly.
you will probably expect him to play.
Yeah.
What about this guy, Tabraiz Shamsi? Would he get a chance? I don't know if he's ever played Test cricket for South Africa. Has he?
No, I don't think he has. And if I'm not wrong, he's not a part of the squad.
Okay.
So
Okay.
at least as things stand, he might be added to the squad. That could still happen. But as far as I know, he's not a part of the squad, and he may not get to play really. I think they're sort of looking at Tabraiz Shamsi as a one-day option at this point in time, South Africa, especially with the World Cup coming up. They would like to keep, I think, two wrist spinners, right?
Okay.
So therefore,
okay.
Yeah, go on.
No, what do you think about Sri Lankan squad? Will they retain the same squad?
I would say yes, that would make sense. It would. I don't know if they want to do a change at the very top of the order, because they have two, not very successful openers. One of those is a captain, so Karunaratne will retain his spot, but they may look to shake it up a little. They may let Thirimanne out of the squad, and they may, promote Dikwela to open, who does it in the shortened formats, right? So, and because of the results of some of the batting from the last week, they may shake up their order a little. So, so one of the other blows they've suffered on the tour is Chamika Karunaratne, who was a fast bowler in the squad, has been released, and another bowler has been inducted in his place. So, bowling might more or less remain the same, but they could include somebody like Sirivardhana, for example, or they may actually look to strengthen the top order by adding or give one more bowling option who could roll a few overs in. So Sirivardhana looks like a good candidate at this stage. So we'll have to see what Sri Lanka also do. But I expect the majority of the team to be the same, maybe one or two changes here and there. That's all.
Okay, and the lower middle order, like Dhananjaya De Silva, will he stay at number 6?
I have a feeling he might stay, especially if Dikwela moves up the order. I think Dhananjaya De Silva will retain his spot at 6. So he might not be at 7, but at 6.
And Kushal will come in at 5. Yeah, obviously.
Exactly. And I think this Sirivardhana might follow both of these people. He might bat at 7, something like this.
Okay.
It remains to be seen how they plan to bolster their lineup. Of course, there is the cricket saying, right? You don't change a winning combination. It might as well just be that they might, Thirimanne might get another test, and they might just retain the whole squad. We'll see how this goes. Okay.
It's interesting. And in the aftermath of the first test match, which Sri Lanka won, Kushal Perera has jumped up 58 places in the latest test rankings that have been announced by ICC, and he has moved up to the 40th position now. That's quite a jump, I would say, and that's a big leap.
Of course.
And not surprisingly, because of his consistent performances during the Australian summer, Pat Cummins has moved up to the top position of test bowlers.
Okay.
So I think well deserved, Pat Cummins. You had something else to say about Sri Lankan news, about a bowler coming back to the squad.
Well, I think Akila Dhananjaya, this is more of he'll not be making the test squad, but he's going to be a part of the one-day squad for the upcoming one-day series.
Okay.
He's basically cleared his action. His action has been cleared, and he can resume bowling for Sri Lanka. He's been inducted back into the team, right? So there have been some other shake-ups again by Sri Lankan board, which was sort of unexpected. Chandimal, who was left out of the Test series, has been left out of the One Day series as well.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a shock, because now I'm really wondering what are they planning to do at the World Cup if they really take a really green team to the World Cup, because Chandimal would be, you would think, is very, very crucial, right? But he's not there, and of course Angelo Matthews has not yet recovered.
Okay.
So if you remember from one of our previous podcasts, we discussed Angelo Pereira, the first class cricketer who scored 2 twin hundreds in a first class match. He's made it into the one day team on back of some good batting. And Oshada Fernando, who's already on tour, he's been retained in the one day squad. Also, we get to see something special, something very unique, as always, from Sri Lankan cricket. Kamindu Mendes, do you remember this guy, Giri?
No, not actually.
Okay, he sort of made his name in T20s, and he sort of came to light as a person who can bowl with both hands. So he bowls right arm off spin and left arm wrist spin. So he is in the squad along with the other left arm wrist spinner, who's the Sandakan, Lakshan Sandakan. So these two guys are there, and so basically, again, the squad wears a very raw or a very greenish outlook, and Tharanga comes back in, so that gives them a bit of experience at the top, right? Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and before we wrap this up, the test match is going to start on the 21st. That's 2 days from now, so it's on Friday. Sorry, on Thursday, in fact. And looking back on the previous test match that was played here between the two teams, South Africa and Sri Lanka, it was in 2016, and South Africa had won that by a massive 206 runs. So Sri Lanka will have to come up with the goods to avoid such kind of result. But I think they are better equipped this time. Hopefully, let's see if they can put up a better performance this time around. There is every chance they can. So look forward to that. Yeah.
Sure. I think this will be a very engrossing contest. South Africa never takes a beating lightly, and this was not a good one. So I think they'll be very keen to bounce back, and I think we can expect a very good contest.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it will not be a one-sided contest. It will be a tough fight.
Yeah, but at least Faf, South African captain, was magnanimous about the defeat. He said he gave full credit to Sri Lanka and Kushal Pereira, the way especially Kushal Pereira batted. So that was good on him, because he was very magnanimous and it was gracious in defeat. Yeah, but there are areas for improvement, of course, for South Africa, and they will come back.
For sure.
I have a feeling.
I think they were not adequate in the second innings. That total was a bit under par. They ended up giving Sri Lanka a tough chase, which Sri Lanka, won. So that was a good wrap up. I think we will discuss the upcoming one of the upcoming episodes, probably even the very next one, what the result of this test match might be. So it's a good one to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you were to quickly look at the ODI series that is coming up also between West Indies and England, this one starts on 20th. The first match of the series. So there is hardly 100 days from the World Cup, and both the teams would be gearing up. And I think this England one-day team is a different beast altogether, right? They are one of the favorites for the tournament.
Yeah.
And of course, Holder comes back for the West Indies. So,
that's great.
Right. So also, we have already discussed in one of the previous episodes, Chris Gayle has been added into the squad. But due to some last-minute changes, so West Indies have lost a couple of players, and they've had to recall Carlos Brathwaite as well into the squad. So you are looking for him, and he's been
I'm
back
happy
into the squad.
He's back. Yeah.
Right. So I think if you were to look at this just as a preview for the very first match, I think West Indies will have a tough time against this England team, which I think tops 300 on a bad day. So these will be low, slow pitches. There, the first one there is in Bridgetown. So it's already been, they played a test there, so it'll be an interesting one. The other thing, well, I don't know if you saw what was in the news in the last couple of days. Ian Morgan, the England one-day captain, was saying he really does not expect Jofra Archer to be a part of the squad, even though there's a lot of clamor going on about Jofra Archer's inclusion. Sort of, he was non-committal. He did not say yes, yes, we would like him in the squad. That's how he left it. He sort of said he would leave it to the selectors because, there are players like Liam Plunkett who also bowls a very heavy ball and can hit the ball long and hard. This guy sort of in and around the England squad for a while, right? So, and Chris Wokes is there. David Willey might come back into the picture. So there are other people who are sort of ahead of this queue, and let's not forget Mark Wood, who suddenly is back in the limelight after his performance in the last test, right?
But you know what, Owen Morgan, in one of his earlier interviews, I think it must have been a couple of months ago, he had actually inclined towards, including Jofra Archer in the squad if given with a chance.
Interesting.
I thought that's what he said some time ago, and now he's probably backtracking on that. I don't know, because I think he has to keep the morale up because there is a guy called Mark Wood who is bowling really well right now. So I think he's just making the squad, players a bit secure about their position.
Of course. Look, at this late stage, maybe they're not really keen. But yes, you're probably right that the way he put it, let me put it like this: earlier this month, what Ian Morgan said is Jofra Archer will have to earn his way into the England team. You're absolutely right. He sounded excited late last year. He sounded very excited about Jofra Archer having a possibility of playing in England team. But recently as the first week of February, he seemed to say that Jofra Archer is 23, so he has a lot of time to play international cricket for England. And also he said that he'll have to earn his place, just like very much like what Morgan himself had to do. He had to earn his place, and then now he's the skipper of England. So something like this, Jofra Archer, he may or may not qualify, but he'll have to earn his place because there's already a pecking order of fast bowlers set up, right? So this is what I meant.
But you know what? One thing is for sure, England batting is very strong. Just in the warm-up game, both Joe Root and this guy, Jason Roy, both of them scored centuries. Remember that?
I see.
I think this was just yesterday, in fact.
Indeed.
So,
So, it looks like, when it comes to Gale, at least, he likes to be in the limelight. He did say that, the crowds at the Caribbean will get one last chance to see him play one-day cricket before the World Cup. Maybe his very last time, he said, on these shores, right? He has claimed that he will retire after the World Cup from ODIs, Giri, the universe boss, right? So he's effectively 273 runs short of 10,000 runs in one-day cricket. So what we were discussing earlier, sort of a swan song, as well as a chance to complete this landmark. He may have sort of had a talk with the selectors about this, and maybe they are sort of inclined to give him this chance, because speaking even before the one day series is done about playing in the World Cup seemed sort of bombastic, but that's how Chris Gayle does it, right? Because he did claim that the tournament should be won by the youngsters of West Indian cricket for him as a tribute.
They owe it to him, basically.
Exactly. Also, this is a very interesting interview from, I think George Dobell wrote this. So he said that England should invite him to the 100 if they kick it off in 2020. He should be a part of it, he said, because he was the one that exploded T20, so he'll be the one that explodes 100 by playing in the very first tournament he claimed.
Right. Wow.
He believes in his myth. At least one person does, so that's good to know.
Well, I expect nothing less from Chris Gayle.
Of course. No, but he does talk and walk sometimes. He does both.
But you have to spare a thought for him because, even though he was not part of this ODI squad, he has been playing cricket all around the year with all these franchises, T20s. So I think that will help him to have some kind of fitness, because you need to keep playing to have that fitness as well as the skill, part of your...
Of course.
So I think it's important for him to do that.
Even though it might be a diminishing sort of a skill, I think he's still very potent at the top of the order, right? If he comes off, if he even goes for 20-25 overs, West Indies would be set up with a very good platform, because they sort of play their one-day cricket very old school, where they sort of look to start very slow and get to 130 or 140 by the 30th over and then explode. If Chris Gayle goes off at the top of the order, they might actually match England total for total, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it will work out in a chase. At least when they're setting up a total, he would really help, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So maybe we can move on to the next ongoing one day, that is between New Zealand and Bangladesh. So this is the third one day. It has just started. It's officially the 20th of February, but it has already started in our time zone. So it's 19th, just close to midnight, and it's just started. So New Zealand have made three changes. They have Saudi, who replaces Henry, and then Munro has been chosen to replace Williamson, and Astle has been. I think he's out injured. I wouldn't say dropped. So he's out injured, and Chantner replaces him. Right. So Bangladesh won the toss and elected to field. Interestingly, right. And Tom Latham will wear the captain's band for this match for New Zealand. I think they're also trying out a few options.
Grooming him probably. Yeah.
Exactly. He does have some captaincy potential and some pedigree, is what I read previously. So they're trying out a few things. So the match is already into the 11th over, and New Zealand are 53 for 1. Colin Munro, who was given another opportunity to sort of press a claim for the World Cup squad, has failed by the looks of it. He's been out for a cheap score of 8. He's been taken out by Mushraf Murtaza right at the top. Also, when it comes to Bangladesh, they have made one change. Right, they have brought in a bowler for a batsman. They have brought in Rubal Hussain, who will be replacing Mohammad Mithun. This seems like a bit of a left field selection for me, simply because Mohammad Mithun was the highest scorer in their previous 2 matches. Right? Unless maybe he's injured. I have not yet followed up on this. Do you know anything about this?
No, I have no idea actually. I'm just looking at the score myself. So
all right,
this is new.
All right. So yeah, I think I just read that Mohammad Mithun has been injured and he has a hamstring strain, so he's sort of not available for about 2 weeks. So as a result, he has had to be replaced. Okay, that was the quick roundup. Let's see how this match goes. I think we can cover it in detail in the upcoming episodes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Moving on to the other things in the world, we just had the Big Bash League finalized. Last weekend, in fact. It was a match between the two Melbourne teams, Melbourne Stars and Melbourne Renegades. And in the end, Melbourne Renegades came out as victors.
Of course.
So it was basically down to Aaron Finch versus James Maxwell. Jimmy, sorry. And Aaron Finch won this, this match. And then this was primarily due to a good all-round performance by Dan Christian, the veteran Crusader. I think one important thing here is Melbourne Stars were very nicely poised at the end of 10 overs to win this match. They were 90-odd runs in 10 overs, and they were only looking at a score of 145, 150, even less than 150 runs.
Yeah.
So 145. So they had a target of 146. But once they lost Marcus Stoinis, they kind of had a collapse, and they never got there in the end. They were 7 down at the end of 20 overs, and they were only, I think they lost it by 13 runs. So it was kind of anticlimax to the whole tournament. But I think Melbourne Renegades were deserved winners. I think they deserve to win this, and good for Finch because he has one trophy up his sleeve now. So it's good.
Indeed. Yeah, he's the Australian captain, probably the one-day format heading to the World Cup. So I think it's good. It's a good boost for him, of course. But I really feel for Glenn Maxwell and the Stars. It was such an anticlimax. You're absolutely right that Glenn Maxwell, he himself could not do much. They had a real meltdown. You're absolutely right. Chasing 146 to win, they were so well placed that at the end of 13 overs, they lost Stoinis, as you said.
Yeah.
And from then it was not very tough. It was hardly run a ball. And in T20, that's nothing, right? It was a pure panic, I think. One of those classic panics that spreads through the dressing room. And then they ended up, not being able to finish off the match. And they had a series of single-digit scores between the batsman number 3 to batsman number 7, and then that really cost them the match. And of course, credit has to be given to Dan Christian, this journeyman cricketer who has represented Australia in the past. But he's probably a bit long in the tooth near the end of his career. But now he was the man of the match in both the semi-final and the final. deservedly, because he also contributed to the bat in the final. He made a 30 ball 38 and kept Tom Cooper company as they set up sort of a middling sort of a total, not a really challenging one. But in spite of that, they were able to win. I think I heard multiple people from the Melbourne Renegade squad, Tom Cooper, Aaron Finch, everybody expressing a bit of a surprise how they got away with winning it. But in the end, that's all that matters, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Indeed, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So maybe we can go through a couple of the miscellaneous topics that are out there in the cricketing world. So first thing is that we read that IMG-Reliance, which was a broadcasting partner for PSL's fourth season, for the television coverage deal and so on, has decided to pull out of the deal. They've claimed a force majeure, and they have decided to pull out of the deal. And this comes as a surprise. Maybe it might be related to the ongoing, impact of the Pulwama tragic incident that has happened. So we don't know. Let's see. I think PSL is looking out for a new broadcasting partner. What I read on Twitter is that they have found somebody who is able to replace this company. And the tournament itinerary will not change. Also, the commentary team might not change, so they may have got a very good deal. So, Wasim Khan, who's the new MD of PCB, said they always had a contingency in place, so they're probably executing that one, right? So, also in other minor PSL news, Mohammad Hafeez's tournament seems to be over because he's had a bad hand injury when he stopped. In his own bowling, he tried to stop a strong hit from the batsman, and he sort of dropped the catch, but more importantly, injured his finger very badly. So Salman Butt has replaced him in the PSL team, right? Lahore Qalandars. But the problem is, I think it's such a major injury that they are saying his World Cup might be in doubt. That comes across as a unfortunate thing for him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now there has been some talk about stump mics being turned down or turned up. So, would you like to weigh in on one side or the other, Giri, on this debate?
Well, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. I'm going to be a bit cautious before introducing this, or full-fledgedly, I would say. I think stump microphone has its advantages along with disadvantages. The advantage being you can enjoy the game from from the perspective of the players and the kind of banter they are having in between them. That's the advantage. The disadvantage is that on one hand, some nasty things are going to be said out in the middle, and this will also be captured. Whether we should hear those kinds of things or not, that's up for debate. I think that's another story altogether. So I'm going to be a bit cautious. I don't know if we are ready for that yet, or which we will ever be ready for this, because you're going to take some character out of the game if you introduce microphone, and people will get more aware of what when the players will get more aware of become more aware of what they're going to say out in the middle, and maybe it probably will take the intensity out of the game. I don't know. What is your thought on this?
I think you captured the duality or the duality in the nature of this debate very well. It has both advantages and disadvantages. So, for example, the advantages, you're right. We live in a PC world, and there is no room for things like racism or homosexual hatred and these sort of things, right? Homophobia out there. So maybe those things don't belong on the pitch. But at the other end, some real funny stories in cricket have come out of these characters who are sometimes a little politically incorrect, but these are some of the most enduring stories. If you were to recollect, I mean, most of this I can't mention on air, but the banter between Botham and Rod Marsh, for example, or Ram Naresh Sarwan and McGrath, maybe that was a little unsavory one. Or the funnier one is Redo Brandis and McGrath, right? So Redo Brandis and one of the other fast Australian fast bowlers. So when you remember some of these slightly funny stories, it does not bode well. If you remove all the character out of the game, it might be too much polished. Maybe it's not a good thing. But on the other hand, there is still no room for racism or homophobia, right? So some of these unsavory things may have to be given up by the players while still retaining some color. That's a big challenge. So the other thing, somebody like Fika, the Australian player body, sort of made a comment that not all parts of a debate or not all parts of an argument or not all parts of a conversation might be heard, and that might give unnecessary color to an argument that may not really be required. For example, in the latest example of Shannon Gabriel being banned, he owned up to what he said, and that was rightfully a wrong thing to say, and he was penalized. That's right. But what if tomorrow only a part of the conversation is coming on a stump mic, and the other player who's actually does not have anything to say because it's a he says, she says, or he says, he says, in this case, in front of a match referee, he would not have a leg to stand upon. That might not be a good thing, right? You might want to be a bit cautious when it comes to these things. That's why I think Sanjay Manjrekar spoke out saying, turn the stump mics down. It might not be a good idea. But then I think everybody and their uncle jumped on him saying, what you're saying, etc. Because, there is room for PC police out there. So somebody like Moeen Ali had a very valid point. He says, turn up the stump mic, because I think he's been a target for many, targeted comments against maybe his religion or his choices that he's made in life. So then I think as a recipient of some very bad remarks, I think he may have some points there. But Sanjay Manjrekar also may have a point. So it's a very nuanced debate. I don't think it's easily concludable. You got that right. But, as we were discussing off air, maybe it makes sense that players are made aware there is this stump mic which can be turned down anytime on, and it will be. Let me put it like this. So they are always forced to be on their guard and in their best behavior. But then there is still some color that is retained, because I think that's what they did in the India-Australia series. That's when they recorded this punt and, teammate conversation. Babysitting, indeed. So there has to be some color that still remains. That's what we go there for. We don't go there to see very well policed matches. But yeah, let's see. I mean, as somebody who plays a little bit of club scene here in the Netherlands, I know what it means. There's some color, and it should remain. That's my opinion. All right. Any more to add on this debate, Giri?
No, I think for now we're good. We can take it up another time. There's a lot of points to talk about here. I think it's going to be a spicy conversation.
The one thing I can say to add to this matter is that in the latest episode of One Tip, One Hand, I think they have a guest, Tasneem Samar Khan, who is a contributor with Guerrilla Cricket. And also, I think she's a human rights lawyer outside of that. So I think she makes a very cogent argument on both sides and where, let's say, the decision should fall. That's a very nice and entertaining episode. I would recommend it to anybody who's interested. So moving on quickly. So we had another interesting match today, list A fixture between Oman and Scotland, where Oman were bowled out for 24. Giri, were you able to follow this, or maybe later on?
No, I just saw it later when the result. I just saw the result. I didn't go through the details.
I think you're right. It started very early in Netherlands time at 6:30, and even before I was awake, I think it was finished more or less, because the match lasted a mere 20 overs more end to end, more or less. So batting first, Oman scored 24, where the highest score was 15, made by Khawar Ali, batting at 3. And the next highest scorer was Extras, who made 3. And then, so there were 24 all out. So Scotland only required the services of 3 bowlers who shared the wickets between them. And then they scored the runs in a matter of 20 balls. So that was that. So it was a very, let's say, one-sided match. So tomorrow, or let's say later today, Oman get another opportunity in the second list A match between the same teams. Let's see if they can do a bit better, right? In one of the last points we have for today, we were reading in the papers today, Nasir Jamshed will be in trial in the UK in December. So if you remember, in the previous edition of PSL, he was sort of caught along with 2 other individuals, UK nationals, who are trying to set up a spot fixing ring in the PSL tournament. And so Pakistan board has already found and penalized about 5 other players, right, with the varying degrees of punishments. So Nasir Jamshed himself was given a 10-year ban by PCB, effectively ending his career. So the other people who are sort of caught and are admitted to something were Sharjeel Khan, who also faced a very long ban, Khalid Latif. Both of them were banned for 5 years. Then, of course, Mohammad Nawaz, Mohammad Irfan, and Shazab Hassan received very small sentences. But I think they're now trying to earn their way back into the team. But I think we could effectively say the careers of Sharjeel Khan and Khalid Latif are over. And, of course, that of Nasir Jamshed is over. Now, on top of it, Nasir Jamshed will face some courtroom proceedings, and he may get a custodial sentence in the UK. So this is something that we came across in the papers today. So just a quick mention on that. That's about it for today. So all that remains is a bit of housekeeping. So before we go to the housekeeping, I think let us ask the trivia question for this week, Giri. So we post these periodic quizzes on our Facebook page or on our Twitter account. So we encourage all our followers to sort of listen to this and participate, or come look at it and participate. We're very much interested in finding out which way the wind is blowing when it comes to cricket, ongoing cricket events, and we would set up a quiz that is very much in concurrence with these events. So we would be very much enthusiastic if we were to also get some participants. Yeah. So today's trivia question is, I don't know if you've heard our previous episodes a bit. We actually discussed this in one of our previous episodes. So if you have been hearing all our previous episodes, you know the answer to this question. So the question is, who is the highest run getter, that is the aggregate, in Ranji Trophy history so far? It's very easy if you've heard our previous episodes. So we are looking forward to more correct answers this week or for the upcoming week. So you can always get in touch for the answer or for other things, for comments and so on, with us using our mail ID, which is armchair.cricket@gmail.com, or on Twitter @armchaircrickpod, or via our Facebook page. So do keep in touch. Do keep listening to our episodes. So as we have already discussed, there's quite a lot of cricket that we can look forward to in the upcoming episodes, right? So thanks a lot for listening to us, guys. Have a nice rest of the day wherever you're listening from. That's it from us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.